Hello and welcome back to our review. I guess it's not another review. It's been a while since we did a review. We've just finished the playoffs. We're done. We're dusted. We're going to go back and watch at least this game. I don't know how many games I'm going to watch and review from the playoffs. There weren't a lot of great games. There were some great games on the third day. Other than that, they were pretty one-sided. We're not going to review the grand finals. Just wasn't very interesting. We're going to go through this match. I want to give a precursor to this. This isn't going to be as much about talking about the players, talking about the teams, and all that kind of stuff. This is going to be more of a general, broad overview. Let's talk playoffs, and we'll just have something interesting on the background. And that's what this Atlanta Reign versus the Gladiators is going to be, because there's a couple of reasons for that. The season's finished. We're not going to see these teams in their entirety really play the game ever again. We're going into Overwatch 2, so it's going to be a completely different game. So it's kind of hard to really go into that. We're not going to learn anything that's going to be applicable. And yeah, 5v5, all these massive changes. We're not really reviewing, we're more just sort of taking check of everything that's happened. So I hope you guys find that interesting. We'll watch the game as it goes by as well. Obviously, this was a pretty interesting match. Atlanta Reign, I'm going to spoil just the whole playoffs, so we're going to talk about everything. So if you don't know the results of what's happened in the playoffs and you don't want to know, don't watch this review, because I'm going to spoil everything. So yeah, just click the X in the top right after liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel, of course. Click the X, and I'm going to start spoiling this, because Atlanta Reign had a bonkers run through the lower bracket in this upcoming match. And they were just really impressive. I think you can say they got away with playing their style throughout the entire lower bracket, but credit where credit's due, they proved that they could beat a lot of things, except for the Shanghai Dragons. So it was kind of crazy to see some of these other teams try and mirror brawl against them. Washington Justice was the first one, just got absolutely fucking bopped by the Atlanta Reign playing brawl. And then they played against the Gladiators. Gladiators didn't really try and play much brawl against them, but what they tried had varied success, especially with this double flex support with Shu and Skewed. And then we had Dallas Fuel, who inexplicably tried to play brawl against Atlanta Reign and just didn't work. So yeah, you need to give props to Atlanta Reign. They were all playing incredibly well in these playoffs. Like Kai and Pelican, just absolutely freaks of nature. Gator and Hawk just proving why they are two of the best brawl tanks to ever exist in the game. And then Masa on that Lucio, and Iris just flawless on the bat. Like, they honestly, you need to give credit where credit's due. It's just incredible plays and players, especially seeing as they sort of gave off this vibe of like they were just sort of doing what they want to do. They weren't over focused, they weren't putting too much pressure on themselves. They just came in confident in themselves and just played their style. And you know, you compare that to teams like Dallas Fuel, Los Angeles Gladiators, teams that put a lot of pressure on themselves to succeed. And I think both of them kind of fizzled out. The Dallas Fuel in their match against the Atlanta Reign later in the playoffs, that match they went out on, I'm sure they're very disappointed. That was not the Dallas Fuel that we saw throughout the entirety of the season. They really did like make a bunch of mistakes, not just picking King's Row and just like some strategical errors. Like on Dorado, Dallas Fuel on Dorado lost dive to Atlanta Reign, and that should just never happen. They are better than that. So it is sad for the Dallas Fuel players, but they had a great season nonetheless. And Atlanta Reign, they pulled out some tricks out of their bag that I didn't think they had. The Kai Tracer was actually impressive. So big props to them. On the other hand, we have the LA Gladiators, a team that I think a lot of people were expecting to be in the grand finals against the Shanghai Dragons. Coming out of a win on the Countdown Cup, just playing a lot of different things very well. They were showing a willingness to play the brawl, but they did want to play this double flex support from time to time. Muse on that Wrecking Ball, Kev's Tracer, just being bonkers, Burdering's Hanzo. They really seem to like find their style. And I think the Gladiators probably would have made it to the grand finals if they had beaten Reign here. And this was an incredibly close series. I'm sure it's going to be salty for the Gladiators, but I don't think you can be disappointed in the Gladiators season overall. Started pretty slow in the front half of the season. Didn't really get the performances we expected about them. So I think almost putting too much pressure on themselves, not having Kevster in person, really weighed its toll. But once they sort of found that backline of Shu Skewed, Shu started having like MVP performances, Kevster started having MVP performances, everything started clicking for them, but unfortunately falling short in this match, and we'll be able to break that down as we go. But yeah, as I said, we're going to talk very generic, big picture things throughout this entire match. So we're not going to just look at this match and the gameplay, but we'll talk about a lot of things. And I think we need to preface that with the Shanghai Dragons 100% deserving of the championship trophy in 2021. They were just better than everyone else. Just across the board, they were just so impressive and on another level. Probably the best dive team to ever play the game. So you need to give props to them there. In this matchup, we're going to see Atlanta Reign. This is not a very good map for Atlanta Reign. They're playing this Orisa Hanzo Echo. It's just not very good in compared to this double flex, this like dive style. Something that the Gladiators did time and time again as well. Knowing that the Reign don't want to play like a Wrecking Ball Tracer, they actually played very greedy with Skewed on the Baptiste and Shu on the Zen. And I think it paid off for them like very well on some of these maps. So Atlanta having to play slow, just go to the point and all that kind of stuff. Shanghai level 100 Mafia buff, they were just, yeah, as I said, they were just, once they worked out that like Wrecking Ball style of playing the game that really played to a lot of their team's strengths, no one else really stood a chance. So an okay dive here from the Gladiators. They haven't been able to get any picks, but this is sort of how the Gladiators have to play, right? They have high damage and they just want to apply enough pressure to Atlanta Reign, who essentially have to play bunkered down on the point, and eventually too much damage comes through. It is really on Pelican to win these duels. Like, Pelican needs to be able to kill the backline because he's pretty much the only one who can. Void and Fate Legends, yeah. It would have been interesting to see how good Shanghai would have been if they had to move away from the Wrecking Ball style a little bit more. Because it felt like they were able to play, ever since like the June Joust, it felt like they were able to play the Wrecking Ball comp and lean back on that Wrecking Ball comp whenever they wanted. Obviously, we know they can play other things, like when Fate plays the Orisa, you have Lip on the Ash and like Flutter on the Echo. That's also just such a good comp for them, but it would have been interesting. Force out the lamp, should be able to get Iris. Kevster was also just incredible. You know, I think a lot of players hyped up Kevster heading into this season, and we didn't really see it last season when he was like a mid-season signing for the Gladiators. But once he was in LA, Kevster was just, he was actually just on a different level as a player, and I think his flexibility really sort of adds on top of that. Was there one thing they did well, or just all across the board? I think, yeah, the Wrecking Ball was really the one thing that... It would have been interesting, and I actually remember thinking this. If Shanghai wasn't the best Wrecking Ball Zen team, would other teams have tried to play it more? Because it felt like every team in the league was avoiding playing Wrecking Ball Zen because it's like, well, we can't beat Shanghai playing this, so why would we ever... Is it worth putting the resources in it? Gladiators adopted it, Chengdu adopted it a little bit, but for the most part, a lot of teams in the league didn't want to play it, and I wonder if that is because they were just like, we would never get to the level in which we would beat Shanghai. Is it me, or has the deterioration of players and coaches' mental health this season been pretty scary? Just reading Smurf and Krusty's messages to fans, it seems like depression or some form of mental illness really hurt the Shock this year. It's just the world we live in. Remember, like, not just the Overwatch League, right? Not just the Overwatch League, but as a whole, the world, there's a lot more depression just because we have a global pandemic. But now think about it. One of the things as a player that is the most rewarding is when you get to play on stage, when you interact with fans, when it really makes it all worth it. In the grand scheme of things, right? You're really accomplishing everything that you've ever wanted to do, and it sort of gives you that invigoration. As a player who, you know, played on stage all of my career, if you took that away from it, I can understand players getting burnt out. And then you also add on the fact that all of a sudden, you know, these Korean players and coaches are stuck in a different country. These players are stuck in the US, away from your friends, family, and the culture that you are comfortable in. You're stuck inside. And then you add like the woes of the San Francisco Shock, a two-time championship team that is just not having success that they're used to. That's got to weigh on you very heavily mentally. To just... It's what point do you like start thinking like, is this really worth it? Is this really what I want to put on my time? They have a lot of hatred coming in from fans, a lot of pressure coming in from fans. It's got to be really hard, and I think it doesn't have anything to do with Overwatch or the league season, if anything, is probably the easiest seasons that people have had to play. It's just everything combined taking its toll. Yeah, Shock made it to number 4. They actually had a pretty good end to their season in the grand scheme of things. Like, they could have easily just not made it to playoffs, or, you know, fallen, you know, being like Philly or Washington, who just sort of never really showed up to the playoffs. Overwatch has some blame, though? Why does Overwatch have blame? Like, why is Overwatch to blame? Kai gets shoe. Let's get some Kai cam actually on the Hanzo. Atlanta's never really been able to get onto the point without just losing too many players, and as you just see it there, like Custa, they like, have they even really got their ultimates out at all here? He's gonna use his dragon, otherwise they might not ever get to use it. Sounds really hard, yeah. Terran players are disgusting, yeah. Shaky looking future for the league, sudden switch to 5v5? I don't think so. If anything, I think it's good for the league. I think the league needs Overwatch in general to add more content and keep the game fresh. I think Overwatch 2 will be a great way to especially broaden the audience. So you're going to have a lot of new fans and a lot of people playing the game all of a sudden who just weren't ever going to play Overwatch 1 again. There's going to be a massive influx of players and people that are interested in the league, so it should be great. Obviously, as you said, the competitive aspect, like, is it going to be fun competitively? That is the real question. I think that's sort of the point that you were trying to make. I don't see the game getting drastically worse PvP-wise. If anything, I think it might... One of the biggest complaints that I know a lot of people have with Overwatch 1 that Overwatch 2 is trying to fix is that Overwatch 1, we've all watched Ryan Brawl Sim v Sim. Does anyone know what the fuck's going on? Because I don't. It's like, once like sim walls start coming down, we got tons of shields, we got these overheads, there's so much stuff happening on the map. It's very hard to observe from time to time, especially when it gets very chaotic. Just a lot of visual clutter. Hopefully 5v5 will reduce that a little bit and make it a little bit easier to follow. And the premise of how to win the game will become a lot easier to follow as well, so... Overwatch League add new teams for Overwatch 2? No. The question I have, people keep asking me, are they going to add more teams? I think it's more likely that teams are going to change franchises, if that makes sense. Teams are going to buy other teams' spots, because I think there's a couple of teams that would like to get out of the Overwatch League, right? Valiant. Maybe Vancouver Titans. You know, Boston Uprising's had some shaky, like, in terms of, like, investment. Like, I think you're more likely to see less teams coming in and more change of ownership teams and change of branding, even. Like, if you're gonna change branding, like, wouldn't it be cool if LA Valiant turned into, like, a Chicago-based team? And if you're gonna ever allow teams to do that, it would be in this transition to Overwatch 2. So I think we might see some changes in teams and, like, complete shakeups of, you know, what's gonna happen. But yeah, like maybe China, they turn into another Chinese team or whatever, so. And then, yeah, and then it becomes, are we going to find teams that, does anyone want to buy an Overwatch League team right now? Are there any investors who are looking at the Overwatch League and be like, yeah, this is a great idea, because I don't know if it always is, right? Let's get some Kevs to Echo. You're going to sell Valiant as an NFT, so then I'll have to block the person trying to sell that NFT on my Twitter. Ooh. Oh my god, that lamp. I really hope they remove lamp for Overwatch 2 as well. It gets redesigned or repurposed. I'd love for it to be like a high damage reduction. I would rather the lamp just do like 70% damage reduction. You know what I mean? Like, it's high damage reduction and you should break it, but it means that if someone has like 30 health, they will still die, right? I just poured coffee all over myself. That was fucking great, Scott. 1 second. Watch Custa. Alright, drinking is hard, chat. Drinking is hard. Alright. How's Custa doing? Is he owning? Oh, he's not gonna get the bomb, is he? That's tragic. You get remixed so fast. That's actually kind of ridiculous. I never even thought about it like that. Bonk. Alright, alright, alright. Do you have a drinking problem? Sort of. Orisa ult is one of, if not the strongest ults in the game. I think Orisa ult is heavily underrated with how much effect you can have with it. Are you better than the players that are currently the Valiant? No. No, no, no. We can discredit the Valiant players all we want, but they're still at least contenders level players, and I'm not really there anymore. Needs a sippy cup. Oh, almost getting away with it. Let's get some Pelican Cam. Then I use like beat to engage, and I think that's fine. Like, I think that's, you use a long cooldown thing to engage. Like, I think that has more interaction. I think we can all agree the problem with Immortality Field is it makes people immortal. I know, plot twist. But it's like, I think having something in the game which is as strong as that, where it's like you can literally make it so that people take no damage if they get low enough, I think is a really bad mechanic in the game. Make it like full invulnerability, but only the last few seconds. That seems way too strong. Oh, dude, Shu's murdering everyone. Let's go back and have a look at Shu murdering everyone. It's probably just a cleanup, but yeah. Some of the Baptistes in this game right now are just on a fucking dumb level. Their aim is just so crisp. I think some of the players involved with it were one-time Valiant. Yeah, like as I said, like Valiant in season 1, we had a great team. Like Valiant was one of the teams that I think it's like London, right? I compare Valiant like London. Remember, London was the best team in 2018. They had incredible players and they didn't change much, but London was like Valiant and we just didn't work out goats. We just weren't good at goats. And goats was such a different way of playing the game that there are a lot of teams got way better in goats, a lot of teams got way worse. And Valiant was that. Like, we just got way worse in goats. And then Kai was obviously a part of the rebuild. Who's the best BAP this season? I would say either Iris or Shu. Would be, yeah, honestly, these two players are probably the two best baps we had. Shu had countless clutches. Like, it was kind of crazy how many clutches Shu had in this, just in the season, in the last month. It's a really good dragon. Who's the best Orisa? Orisa's really hard. Like, Orisa really depends on the team and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really hard to see their impact. I actually have the same problem thing with Brig. Everyone likes to talk about how great these Brigs are. It is really hard to see the impact of Brig because it is very dependent on your team, I think, a lot of the time. And it's also hard to see that impact. So we go on past this first map. The rain gets kind of beaten, and this isn't surprising. The Ilios plays heavily into the Gladiators' favor. They can't really play Brawl on this map. Atlanta Reign had the exact same issue against the Shanghai Dragons. Their composition and the way they want to play the game just doesn't really work. So Gladiators get a great first win on the first map. I think Scoot would be the best Brig. Like, Scoot has, just statistically, is incredible. Ready. Wasn't Pelican given a ping advantage? Well, what they did is they played West Coast. I don't know if West Coast or they played Hawaii, but they played from a server that is more beneficial for thing, because there's no reason to play from the East, like from Japan servers if they're both in Hawaii, right? So. Attackers incoming in 30 seconds. I don't know who the chats are. Ready. Alright, so now we go on to this map, and I don't know about you guys, but one of the worst things that happened throughout, it was a great playoffs. One of the worst things about the playoffs is I feel like I watched Hanamura like 19 times. Like, I watched Hanamura way too many fucking times, and Kings Row. So, we're going to go into this. This was one of Atlanta Reign's maps that just we saw a lot of the time. The reason Atlanta Reign would go to this map a lot, and a lot of teams would, is because you can play Brawl. This is a good Brawl map because you can sim TP, but a lot of teams really like it because you can also play these like interesting defenses like we see from the Gladiators. Shanghai played something similar to this when they played the game, where they'd play like Izzyaki up here on the Ana. They would play Fleta on like the Echo Mercy or Flower Mercy over here, and then you'd have like an Ashe or a Hanzo play over here, and you play the Orisa here. And what this does is that if they do try and TP to the point, you have so much damage that the D.Va and the Orisa can really like juggle off the point, and then once you start getting ults, it becomes almost impossible to push. So we're gonna see the Atlanta Reign, how they try and accomplish this here. Shu should have played bridge like Izzyaki got picked first, yeah. Especially for the first fight. I think he was trying to get a nade. He's sort of playing in the same spot. But funnily enough, Atlanta actually does the thing that Shanghai did to them as well. This is like something that Shanghai actually does, where you TP to the point, and you make everyone like turn around and act like you're going to the point, and then you just run someone down. So they get the rundown on Birdering, the good old switcheroo, and that's what makes Symmetra so good. Is you hit on this point, you just have so many options. And then Shu gets isolated by trying to rotate away. So just great play by the Reign. Just good TPs by Kai. Yeah, and as you guys said, I would rather watch Hanamura than like Volskaya, and Anubis was the other map in the pool, I believe. Did we see any Anubis? I think we saw a little bit. Dude, Gladiators almost held this as well. So even if Pelican's connection was faster, they would probably normalize their... Yeah, so that is what they would have done. Like, Pelican wouldn't have better ping than everyone else. What they do is they set a minimum server latency. So even if they were playing LA servers, everyone would be set to like 80 or 90. That's generally what they do, because they can set a minimum latency. And that allows competitive integrity. Do you think not using Moth as much as possible was a mistake from LA? No, I think playing skewed makes a ton of sense. I think Moth is like super, right? Where Moth could easily be played instead of skewed and be really good. But skewed's best hero is his Brig, and they leaned heavily on the double flex support towards the end. Skewed is the best person for the job. I think if they ever were going to play, we ended up in a heavy Lucio meta, you would have seen Moth. And I think Moth plays Brig just fine. He's a great Mercy. It's kind of how like Super, right? Where Super's a great Reinhardt player, and that's what he's best at. Like, that's what Moth is Lucio, but Super can play other things. And I think it's just the cost of having these big rosters. Like, they can't play both of them. Sky is too cold. Does Moth have a spot in the league? Yeah, I think Moth's fine. Dude, those are some scary right clicks. Actually, I remember this. Look at this. This is a really bad death, because Reign don't really have anything to deal with him. The only person who can deal with him is really Hawk, and taking this Fire Strike was a big L. So with that Fire Strike, Birdering even went over the Doomfist to try and shut this down, but yeah, this is going to be a fast cap from Atlanta. I love the Shadow into space. I think it's like 100% valuable. Birdering just gets pulse bombed by Pelican coming back, and it's just... Do you expect rosters next season to be significantly smaller? Do you think we'll see teams with specialists in their lineup? I will say this. I hate big rosters. I think if we should learn anything from going from Overwatch 2, from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, people should stop playing with big rosters. The best teams throughout history of the Overwatch League have almost always been 6 players that have flexibility and can play a lot of different things. Teams that do these massive subbing strategies generally have never been that successful. The only team to ever make it work were the San Francisco Shock, and I think that's just because they have a wealth of incredible players. I think you are better off going into Overwatch 2. I would, if I was GM Custa building a team, I would get 5 of the best, most well-rounded players that I could get. And that is how I would build my team. I think, especially as we add more heroes into the game, specialist players become less and less valuable because you're going to need to be able to switch around and play a lot of different things. So if I was building a team, I would have 6 players. I would just have 6 great players, and I think in the team, maybe on my DPS role, I would have my 6th player, but I would want 1 great main tank who I think has a lot of flexibility. Maybe I would go 7 just because of how uncertain tanks are going to be in Overwatch 2. Pick up a main tank, pick up an off tank, have them fight out to see who was the best overall, but then you're covering your bases, and then just have 2 great player supports. And I think that would be it. I would go 7 players, 3 DPS players, 2 tanks, work that out. But I would set the expectation to the DPS players and the tank players of like, we're probably gonna end up on 5 primary players, because I think that is the best way to play the game. And I think what it does is, I think there's been a lot of careers, and we've talked about this in previous VOD reviews, there's been a lot of careers that have been wasted. Like Moth is a 2-time championship main support who played such a handful of games in this year, and I think that's such a waste of talent and such a waste of money as well. Mott's contract on the LA Gladiators was probably stupid high because he's a 2-time champion and he adds a lot of value, and he didn't even really play. So yeah, and as I said, like, we're in Overwatch 2, in a perfect world, what I would want is every Overwatch League team to be forced to have an academy team, and then every team would just have 10 players. And you can trade with it, you can work within your academy team and main roster, and then there you have essentially 10 players that you have value into it, and you can switch them and interchange them whenever you want. That is my dream. But hey, I think that's expensive and a pipe dream. I'm not going to talk about the San Francisco Shock and their roster and that kind of stuff, especially going into Overwatch 2, who they should keep, who they should get rid of. Mainly because there's a lot of people who think like there's Shock simps that are just going to be unreasonable when we talk about these kind of things. But also, it's just a very complicated question, right? And we would start doing it for every roster. So maybe that's a question for every team, and we can talk about it another time. But I don't really want to talk about that right now. Like, I'd rather talk about like playoffs and future and stuff like that.
Ready for battle.
I don't think how vital he was that team, and maybe that's a question of like, if Mothra was in the team, would they have had better communication structure? Would they have been able to have a better subbing strategy? Maybe. But it's hard to speculate from the outside when we don't even really understand what the problems with the Shock were. So it's also impossible to make a roster when we don't even know what's valuable in Overwatch 2. We don't even know how the game's going to play out. And I'm really curious to see how Overwatch League is going to solve that problem of like, how are Overwatch League teams going to build rosters when we don't even know how the game is going to be played? That becomes a problem, right? It's like, which tank should I be signing? Should I sign a main tank? Should I sign an off tank? Does it not matter? Should I just sign someone who's strong? Like, we don't know. So, that's a problem for them, not for me. Give our teams early beta? Yeah, maybe that's the solution, but then all of a sudden, is that something that the developers want to do? Alright, so we have the Gladiators playing a different style. So Gladiators are going to play the double flex support Orisa stuff that they're really good at. That gives Kevs the freedom to play the Tracer, burdering on the Hanzo, while Rain is setting up their like pretty, as I said, stock standard, cross-firing defense. You have the Mercy and the Echo. My ability to get no, I don't know, guys. Like, as I said, I know as little about Overwatch 2 as you guys do. And I think speculating about like changes that need to be made or things that will be issues is kind of redundant because we don't actually even know. Space loses mech. I'm worried about this composition from the Gladiators if they're going to be able to control any space. It really feels like they're relying on Birdering to get kills. Like they have, or Kevsta to get into the backline. Where is Kevsta? Dewey, thank you for the fresh up. Subscribes for 6 months as well. Dewey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Welcome to the fam. I feel like Birdering went under the radar, but it was cracked. Oh yeah, Birdering was very impressive. Especially his hit scan's just so good, so much in form. Alright, let's see how Kevsta gets anything done here. Well, that's one way to do it. And that's the, like, this is the most classic Space int if I've ever seen one. This is how Space plays the game, and he's so impactful, and he does a great job of creating space, no pun intended. And it is like a unique style in which he plays, where he puts himself at the forefront. And I think it's also why a lot of people blamed Space for being like, he's a feeder. It's like, no, this is just how he plays the game. He just needed a team to follow up on his play, right? And he does need to do this, right? He needs to create space. The window goes down. The best play to do is go aggressive. But then the Rain does a great job of turning on him. So, and they should hopefully give the rest of his team a little bit of space. Oh, Kai, great shot. Oh! Dude, the healing from the Mercy is not too much. And like, I feel like that is a great example of why healing needs to be nerfed. Like, look at this. Look at Iris's health. So he almost one-clips him, right? Kev's almost one-clips him. He gets to 10 health, and then he uses the shift in the direct healing, and he's full health. Like, 1.5 seconds later. Like, that change going to Overwatch 2 of 25% healing reduction, if that is a thing, like, I don't even know if that is a thing. I don't know if Super got told that, but, like, isn't that kind of a good thing? Wouldn't that make it easier to execute targets and sort of go back to that FPS style? It doesn't feel like when the Mercy has Valk, everything just can't really die. Like, maybe that will feel better. Maybe it'll feel shit. Maybe it'll just feel like you just die all the time. I don't know. But, like, I think that healing is an issue that does need to be addressed going into Overwatch 2. And if you are going to reduce healing, would it be valuable to reduce damage, right? Like, his Trace is just going to be overpowered with damage reduction because heals can't counteract his damage.
Objective lost.
Don't know. It'll be interesting. And we won't really know until we get our hands on it. We really get to try it out.
You're fully healed.
See through the dragon's eyes.
Hello, are ya? Alright, Dragon goes to the room. Kai's mirroring the Dragon. I actually really like that counter Dragon. Makes it so Gladiators cannot follow. Oh, 2 health. Cannot follow up on that damage. Wow, great play by Kevsta. Oh, good catch by Hawk. Let's watch Sushi Train. Bongo. Is that Bongo window? That is so much damage.
Fully healed.
Oh, is Space gonna live? Oh, he does. I like that bomb by Space. Okay, yeah, so they just didn't clean up fast enough. Like Gladiators just didn't clean it up fast enough. It was a good reset by the Rain though. Why did Shu drop down there? Shu drops from this high ground because he doesn't want to play anywhere up here because he's playing against a Widow. He needs to be able to have sightline on his team without having to open up to the Widow. Is what I would assume.
Impeccable.
Name's McCree.
Let's get some hawk cam.
Healing boost. Check this out.
Defense matrix activated. Get through this.
Get up.
I'm going to shoot you down.
Bad guy.
Routing power to forward shield.
Okay. I think they thought the gladiators, they like engage.
Get through this.
And we're sort of at that point, right, where it's like who blinks first. Like the Rain want to run at them and the gladiators want to poke. Oh yeah, Hawk has to go to the point. That's kind of unfortunate because he was about to get so much work done, I feel like though. Good kill into space.
Let's up the tempo. Check this out.
APM 좀 올려볼까? I'm going to shoot you down.
Alright, Sparky, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but Overwatch 1 is not a perfect game. And I think 5v5 is a great solution to a lot of the problems. You say that you're like, it's an unnecessary change, but regardless of Overwatch League, right? Let's just not think about Overwatch League. Nobody wants to play tanks. That is why queues are really long, is because they can never find tanks to play the game. Plus, it's very hard to disable double shield tanks. And that is one of the reasons that it is a very necessary change, is I feel like it makes it so that the game moves away from this like very heavy shield and like brawl style of playing the game, and it sort of goes back to more of an FPS style. I think it solves the problem of just people not wanting to play tanks. And you know, like it just sort of, it is making the game different and elevating it in a way in which the developers have said they want to open the game up. They want it to feel more deathmatchy. They want it to feel more FPS-like and less pure strategy or like six-man run at each other's face and stuff like that. And I think that is a good direction for Overwatch 2. And I think that's something, as much as we don't mind Overwatch 1, we're all here. We like Overwatch, right? The general consensus of the audience and the player base says they don't like it, and that's why Overwatch has been hemorrhaging players for a very long time. Ever since they added Brigade into the game, they added more shields into the game, ever since they added all these things into the game, the player base has been reducing. And as much as people say, I like playing tanks and we like playing double tank duo, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the statistics. People don't want to play tanks. And playing tanks is very frustrating in Overwatch 1 right now, so... People don't like playing tank due to CC, and they're fixing that as well. But this has always been a common theme. People don't want to play tanks. It wasn't a thing like, yes, obviously Brig and Sombra removed a bit of the fun of it, but it's already been, it was a thing before the beginning of time. And I think people have been complaining about the game for so long, and now that Blizzard is making these massive sweeping changes for Overwatch 2, people are like, no, we didn't want that change. People are complaining about the changes that Overwatch 2 is bringing in 5v5 and reducing CC and all these kind of changes, but not providing other solutions to problems. Due to lack of new content. Not true. Overwatch was losing viewer, player base and that kind of stuff well before they started reducing content. Yes, obviously not releasing new content is a problem, but there's not the only problem that exists in the game. Devs can't win, and that's it. Like, they're never gonna please everyone. Everyone's not gonna be happy in their grand scheme of thing. They need a balance for casuals. They need a balance for pros. Like, did you guys see that Reddit thread? I saw a Reddit thread about the forums complaining that the Overwatch League players were able to play the game and the casuals weren't. They're like, our feedback matters too, and it's like, okay. Okay, but then when they do the BlizzCon online and they show that show match, everyone says, "Oh, the people playing were bad." It's like, well, you're never going to please everyone. Someone's going to be upset. Someone's going to complain and that kind of stuff. So we'll see. As I said, I'm optimistic about Overwatch 2. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to solve a lot of the problems with Overwatch 1. But I could easily be wrong because I haven't played the game. And you know who else hasn't played the game? Everyone.
Score.
And even the people who have played the game, like the Overwatch League players that people are referencing, they only got to play it for a very short period of time. So we don't have a good understanding of where the game's going to go. And I think there's a lot of doom and gloom about the game that is unwarranted. And a lot of people making these broad stroke assumptions about the game when we have no idea what it's going to look like.
All systems up.
Ready for battle.
Alright, who do we want to watch? Let's get some... Let's get back to the Birdering Hanzo cam.
Incoming in 30 seconds.
Look at this team.
So when does Overwatch 2 come out for beta? We have no idea. Do you hear what Hawk said about Shock? Yeah, I think that was funny. There's a lot of shit said in comms, right? Like, Overwatch League teams are never nice. Like, if you're giving your team, the opposition team respect in your thing, yeah, of course, they're your opponent, your opposition. You're always gonna talk shit. You're always gonna try and hype yourselves up and call the opposition shit, and you're going to always do that kind of stuff. This is high level competition. It's funny.
5, 4, 3, 2,
The true enemy
One.
of humanity is the
attackers
sword.
incoming. Defend objective A.
What do you think about Overwatch 2's time to kill so far? Alright, I feel like this is gonna be asked a million times as well. And this is everyone just sort of parroting what Super said. It's gonna be really deathmatchy. And I don't know how deathmatchy it's gonna be. There was a lot of deathmatch happening in that play game, but we only saw 10 minutes of gameplay. Like, we literally only saw 10 minutes of gameplay. I feel like it's impossible to make assumptions, especially because there's not going to be no strategy because the players didn't have time to play it enough to give strategy. They were just fucking around with Bash and Sim as well. Like, we don't know what the time to kill is going to be like. I hope it's not too low because I agree. I don't want it to be like COD as well, but I also want it to feel the game to feel more like it's an FPS. And I feel like, honestly, I just want the game to be like TF2. Where it's like open, there aren't shields, it feels like I'm able to shoot at people, but it also feels like I'm able to move around the map. That's the dream, right? And I think that's where the game needs to go, but I have no idea. I have no idea what the time to kill is like and how it's going to change and stuff like that. It's going to be more deathmatchy than 6v6, and I think that's great for the game. I really think that's good for the game. Interesting that the Gladiators went to Brawl for this fight. They kind of fucked it up as well. I think their first Sim TP was quite bad.
Teleporter online.
30 seconds.
It's really Team Fortress 3. Yeah, that'd be a good time. So Gladiators make it on the point. So Atlanta Rain's gonna play this. They're gonna have to play this slow, right? So Gladiators make it to the point. They're throwing shit. They got the walls. They got a tick. They got 2 ticks. Rain has to respect this a little bit. Try and charge up ults, try and get picks, and there's the first pick. They get skewed. They get Space Mech. I don't know why Space ran off the point there. I think he thought he could get the kill on the Kai, but I think that might have been a bad call.
Circuits engaged. Right.
But Atlanta's gonna hold, and that's just a good hold by Atlanta. I think Gladiator's first TP was kind of bad, and that sort of hurt them. They gave Rain more time.
Dein Schutzengel ist da.
Round 3. Complete. Score 2-2. Switching sides. Initiating match.
See, but the fuzzbiz, the problem with that semi-organized team play is what makes this game fun. And I think there's a lot of people saying that, like, oh yeah, like 6v6 is so fun when you have the strategy and you have 6v6 and you play the highest level of competition, or like you're working as a unit. And I agree, that's why I was an Overwatch Pro. I love that aspect. But that's not how 95% of the player base plays this game. Most of the people are playing with 1 to 2 to 3 friends, and it's not fun to play when you don't have coordination. That's why I think a lot of people gave up on this game, is that when you are not playing as a team, when your teammates are locking Roadhog, locking Bastion, locking Torb, locking Sim, the game isn't fun. And I think they need to go more to a deathmatchy style to make the game more fun for the general player base, right? And find that good balance for the game. Where, like, in a situation where the game is fun without having 6 players, right? So with how many heroes, how is that even possible? Well, I think the game needs to get to a point where picking a hero isn't a throw. Where it's like, if you don't play these 5 heroes, you're going to lose the game. And that's the way, if the game gets up to 40 heroes, it needs to be that way, where it's like, oh, you just have to play these 5 heroes. It needs to get to a point where all the heroes play, there are so many heroes that you can play, you can sort of mix and match a little bit, and you can still be competitive and you can still work together, and that certain heroes aren't throw picks. And I think that's why they are reworking Bastion. It's why they are reworking a bunch of these heroes, where it's like you can play these heroes without feeling like you're, if you have that hero on your team, then you don't just lose the game through default, which feels like right now. It's more viewable if people are playing it casually, exactly, right? I also agree that, yeah, I agree with Ben, like, this idea that, oh, if your tank's bad, you just lose the game. Dude, if I have a shitty tank in my game right now, I'm losing the game. Just because I have a shitty tank now in 5v5 doesn't change everything. And I think that's also a 0 point, because we don't even know how impactful tanks are going to be in Overwatch 2. If you have a shitty DPS, it's also going to be a problem in 5v5 and stuff like that, alright? Like, there's just so many assumptions going around. People are making assumptions about how the game is going to play and how it's going to be, and then saying it's dead because of X reason, dead because of this reason, dead because of this reason. It's not going to be fun because of this reason.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Current Overwatch 2 Summer is too strong. I think there's I like the reworks, and I think the hero changes are interesting. I think they're good. I think removing her hacking from just like not allowing you to play the game is a great idea. I don't know how it's going to feel with the jankiness of only getting hacked for 1 second. Like, is that just going to feel bad when you get hacked for 1 second? Obviously, it's nice that it's not as long, but a 1 second hack is like, it might feel weird. That's my worry point. But like the idea of like, oh, she's just gonna do too much damage now. I don't give a shit about how much damage Sombra does. They can balance that whenever they want. Like, they can always reduce the damage of hack. When people are hacked, they can reduce the damage of a gun. They can change numbers easily. You should look at the kit as a whole and be like, do I like this? Oh, that so feels bad for Iris. Iris gets bullied on the TP. Great kill by Custa. How fast does Custa get this barrage? Look at his ult charge. Flunk. What was it? I feel like Hawk didn't get a lot of the things Matrix. Like, what happened here with the Matrix? It feels like he went the other way, so they took a ton of rockets. I feel like he needs to be looking at the Pharah here, right? Obviously, Hawk's a much better diva than I am. But I feel like that should probably be the play, right? So you don't get conked and that kind of stuff. I don't know. But obviously it didn't go very well. Yeah, like that 3 second cooldown is a bit much. Like, but that's like, those kind of things can easily be tuned. They can easily turn it into 5 seconds, and they can change the numbers. That should not be something that you're worried about. Just look at it as a kit. The only thing I don't like is getting hacked while in Viz, yeah. And like, they can mess with that. They can always revert those kind of things as well, make it so that you have to unstealth. Maybe they could make it that you have to leave stealth to hack someone, but if you leave stealth manually, your cooldown, it doesn't go on cooldown. You know what I mean? Or if you get shot, you can't go invisible or something like that. I don't know. But like, they could definitely fuck around with it a little bit. Think Sombra is good right now? That makes one of you. Dude, once again, they're just really struggling to get through this TP. They didn't break the TP though, right? Doesn't it show when TP gets broken? Did Kai break it manually? What happened here? Do they kill it? It's right. Oh, there's a limb marker. Is there? Oh yeah, you're right. Eliminate Kai's teleporter. You're right. Someone must have been on the other side or like break here that I couldn't really see. I mean, Summer is good in the current Overwatch, if that makes it better. That, yeah, like, if you like it, yeah. As I said, it's hard to really know. Like, for the general consensus of people that played it said that she was, like, dumb broken. And I just think it's probably just because of the damage. Like, I think that 50% damage increase is just absolutely brutal. Like, this is a prime example. I think this gameplay is incredibly fucking boring. Like, I think this is really boring, where it's like one team's trying to run out of a sim teleporter, and the other one's just trying to spam them out of that sim teleporter. Like, and then if Reyna just made it to point the first time, it would have just been fine. Like, I think this is not what Overwatch is really about. Like, we're not playing an FPS game here. For the most part. Like, it feels like everyone's just shooting each other's general direction. This strategy, I don't think is very interesting. And I think if they can move away from that, open the game up a little bit more, take away this, like, high level, like, I guess, rock, paper, scissors, I think it's better for the game.
Helden sterben nicht. Justice reigns from above.
Okay, they get a couple of kills. Kill the Bob. Kill the. Alright, you're fine, Bob. Don't worry about it. This should be it for the Atlanta Rain. They just had too much time. How much of it being boring is 2CP choke stupidness, but I think that this exists on so many different levels. Like, I think there's a lot of chokes that exist in this game, and that's how it's played, and everyone just uses shields to mitigate. And it feels like there's just like a lot of damage coming out and a lot of healing, but not a lot of, you know, coordinated aiming and stuff like that. It happens on Route 66 too. Yeah, exactly. I just think with the two tanks and all that kind of stuff, it feels very easy to get like choked out and feel like that. It almost feels like you're playing a tower defense, like a PvP tower defense, you know what I mean, from time to time. And I think if they can remove that and go to more of like the control aspect, right, where it's like it feels like there's a lot more combats happening, like you need to work together, but it feels like you're moving around the map without going through chokes. I think if they can find that perfect balance for Overwatch 2, it'll be a good thing. Whether or not they'll be able to do that is the big question. All right, in this match, the Gladiators pick Kings Row, along with all the other teams that lose to Atlanta Rain. Everyone keeps picking Kings Row. I actually talked to Space, because I watched the grand finals with Space. And I was like, why did you guys pick Kings Row? Everyone keeps fucking picking Kings Row against them. Why did you do that? And it's kind of interesting hearing this from Space, because he says they don't want to play Numbani because they're worried about the snowball potential of Numbani and that Rain might be able to beat them at it. I feel like that's just a little bit of playing scared. And they said Eigenvald, they say they don't like their comps on that, and they think Atlanta Rain's comps could be better on that map. So I sort of get it, but also it feels like we're enabling this Atlanta Rain comp once more by going to Kings Row. You think Dallas vs Dragons would have been an interesting finals? Maybe. Like, we saw Dallas vs Dragons and it was pretty one-sided on that match as well. So I don't know, I think it's impossible to say. They're just trying stuff left and right without direction. I think they're just testing stuff. I think they're just, you know, the developers are trying throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks. And that's why it is taking a long time for Overwatch 2 to be made.
5, 4, 3,
I think Numbani would have been better for the Gladiators as well, but yeah.
attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
I had Chengdu vs Dragons for my bracket. Well, the thing is, Chengdu was one of the most disappointing teams for me this tournament. They just did not look like the team that were so dominant throughout the entire season, like regular season. They looked like they doubted their Pharah comp and they didn't want to lean into it too much. They obviously had that great first win against Atlanta, but Atlanta just doesn't match up that well. So I don't know. It was kind of weird from Chengdu. But yeah, kind of disappointing to see that happen. No one's here. Thank you for the 6 months, by the way. What, they did decent? Yeah, they did okay against San Francisco Shock before they got knocked out. But they like they lost to San Fran in the end. But like they almost got 3-0'd in a pretty crazy fashion. Like they had a pretty crazy comeback in that match. Like, that match could have easily ended 3-0, and Chengdu would have just, like, it would have been incredibly disappointing. So, it wasn't the Chengdu that we know that was, like, the second best team. Like, I had them going to the grand finals as well. Because I thought that they might come in with that extra, like, spice, but honestly, it felt like Leave and Friends. Like, I think Bren sums it up perfectly. It literally just feels like Leave was trying to carry that team kicking and screaming, and everyone else looked a little lost. They got destroyed by Dallas as well, yeah. It just didn't feel good for Chengdu from time to time. Kai had some crazy Hanzo plays in this just playoffs in general. The Lit vs Kai Hanzo v Hanzo in the grand finals was kind of nice. Yo, 420 Moose 420. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Let's get some Custa Pogs, some Custa hearts up in chat. Much love, guys. Much love, much love. Thank you for the 5 gifted 420. Wobble wobble, motherfucker. Kai is the best. Yeah, I think Kai had made an argument for one of the best hit scans in the world in these playoffs. I think he was so dominant with how little, like, it just felt like anyone who tried to play against him on McCree just got bopped. They just got clicked on. You want to go out, Ian? Oh. Yeah, I think, yeah, I do agree. Like, as much as Atlanta, the match was 4-0, it was a close match. Like, it was closer than, like, the 4-0 that we all thought it was. Like, I think Kings Row and Hanamura both went to overtime, and they both, like, they could have gone either way, so. Custa, it would be really cool if you gave me and chat alpha access in Overwatch 2. Gotta get myself alpha access first. Dragon v Dragon. Oh, Muse with some good mines. It would have been funny if Hanamura was a draw. In the final match of Hanamura, it was a draw. Quite poetic. Oh, good flux by Space. Not a lot of follow-up from it. Oh, and then he gets bucked for it. I think Space might have gone a little aggressive here. This might have been a little bit of an in from Space. Like, I think the flux is good, and he wanted to follow it, but yeah, going in that room, I don't think was it. They didn't really have the follow-up in any way. Birdering saving it, though. Whew. What do you think of Gaga? Gaga impressed me a lot more in the first half of the season. Oh, in the second half of the season, he was nowhere near as good. Dude, Birdering got 4 in this map, in this fight. All right, let's get some Kev's Tracer. Arena. Kevsta's performance, yeah, Kevsta was incredible in the playoffs. Honestly, Kevsta just in the back half of the season was incredible. If he had had a better front half performance, he could have been definitely in the running for a MVP. but he, like, especially with how he played in the back half, but he was really average. I think a lot of people forget. It's the same thing with Shu. I think Kevster and Shu in the May Melee and the June Joust, both of them were kind of a bit of feeders. But like after they sort of like Gladiators started popping off, like Shu and Kevster were both incredible. How you hear that Nero might retire? Doesn't surprise me. I think it'll be interesting to see how many players, you know, we talked about at the start of this review how hard it is to be a player these days with not live performance and that kind of stuff. Plus Nero got a lot of hate this year from Shock fans. But also like the uncertainty of their job and if they're going to enjoy Overwatch 2. There's a lot changing, so it's not too surprising to hear players are thinking they'll retire. Especially with a lot of them who think that like the grass is greener at Valorant, you know? Fans, yeah. You know? They're not good fans, but they're fans. Oh, nice pulse. Honestly, Custa just loves to stick a tank. That's like all he does on cooldown almost. Just guarantee the value. I also thought Nero got even nothing. I think Nero was the most consistent player in the San Francisco Shock in the entire season. Even in the May Melee and like the June Joust when the Shock were getting bopped. His May was really good. I would think Nero, if I had to choose a May player, it would be like Pelican or Nero. Those would be my two May players that I would want on my team. They're both so fucking good at May. Like Nero was really good throughout the entirety of the season. I don't know where fans, it's honestly just fans who have no idea what they're talking about, just seeing the San Francisco Shock lose and be like, well, I gotta blame one of the new players. Nero FD got him fucking Glista. Worst players I've ever seen. Yeah, like you can see here that Kevs is doing damage, but it's not enough. Like his team is getting run down by the brawl before he's able to really get too much value. Poor FD got so much shit this season. Yeah, like I think his Lucio is incredible. I think he really struggled on the Brig and Mercy from time to time, but also it didn't feel like Shock really gave him the time to adjust and like work with the team, but you know. It was so valuable for the Gladiators having Skew be able to play this flex support. Like a great Brig player that also plays the flex. Headball, thank you very much for the Prime sub. Sorry, I missed that one. I think people weren't talking Masa. Dude, Masa was so good this year. Like, Masa, he might be one of my favorite main supports from this year. Like, he'd be in the top 3. I think I would say, like, Lee Jae-gon and then Jexay. I don't think Jexay gets talked about anywhere near enough for the Dallas Fuel as well. And then Masa. Like, they were all so good. Oh, this was actually sad when I remember it. As I talk good about Masa, let's watch this. See? Doesn't just happen to me, chat. Not just me, you know? Sometimes the mines, they just come out of nowhere. It's coming out of nowhere. It only happens to you, full win. They go over to double flex support. Yeah, like Ryan's just so hard in this. Like, I like Ryan in the front in the first 2 rounds. On this 3rd point, it's very hard, especially against the Bab Zen. There's just so much damage that it's so hard to close this distance.
30 seconds.
How you get the codes for the games? You can find them on the replay viewer. I don't know if they're all available to everyone right now, like the public, but they will be soon. But you can just find it on the replay viewer through Battle.net Launcher. Shu, excuse me? Shu? Oh. Shu? 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 Woo! Alright, it's fine. We'll call it even. He got one. He didn't hit a lot of shots in that.
Heroes never die.
Flank was worth it. First try. Alright, Space's flock needs to be set crazy good. Gets the sig. Lamp goes down. It's just a mess. What's that lamp? You can't. Oh, he almost got that. Space is so dead. Oh yeah, it's just done and dusted. Alright, Rain get the 3 cap. Gladiators were there. I honestly think they could have potentially, like, if Shu hits more shots there, they could have held. I actually kind of like the flank. He just missed a lot of shots. But, you know, sometimes it happens like that. One second, let me let the cats out. The cats are all looking very... Come on, who wants to go outside? Anyone else?
I sense within you the same wind that once consumed your brother.
Oh, yeah. Who wants to see?
Get behind me.
Actually, that was against the shock, yeah. That was up there with one of the biggest stories I've seen in a while. That jump by Violet. Whew. Whew.
2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Teleporter online.
The Kev's the Widow, legendary. All right, let's let Shu redeem himself a little bit on the Zen. Here's with a sheesh? Nah, I refuse. No sheeses. Will you review the Overwatch 2 show match? Nah, probably not. Everyone's seen it and looked at it enough. Maybe in the future, like in the off season, as they release more content, I'll like analyze it live on stream and like talk about it live on stream. But like, it was so many days ago, and I feel like we've really beaten this horse to death. So we'll wait for the next one.
I could use some healing.
This is like when you wouldn't dab and then we're like 2 years late. Yeah, I really picked dabbing up after it wasn't cool anymore. I was like, I hit it with the boomer reactions.
The healing over here. I need healing.
Yeah, and this is sort of the problem with the double flex, that like it feels like doesn't feel like anyone's able to really get that space to like shoot, because they're also worried about the brawl. Favorite anime? Demon Slayer. New season soon, like November, right? I want to watch the Mugen Train as well. October! Aren't they releasing like extra episodes of the Mugen Train, like not just the movie? Oh wow. Something like that, yeah, I don't know. Oh, wow, that was a great EMP and dive by the Gladiators. Watching it from Kai's perspective, they literally just came from fucking everywhere. I think Masai got hit by this EMP as well, right? This was like a cat and mouse from Masa and Birdering the whole time. So he gets aggressive, gets the beat. Oh, he almost gets away from it, but yeah, not being able to get that beat off, just...
Back into the mix.
Objective lost. Stop the payload.
Changing to 5v5 but having huge map feels weird to look at. Yeah, it'll be, and we'll only really know in time, right? We won't really know until... Oh, sorry, Bo, I just kicked you. If not 3-1, I think this is definitely an upset. I was surprised to see the Gladiators lose to Atlanta. Like, everyone was saying going into this that, like, Gladiators were the team to beat that weren't Shanghai. And they're, like, Shanghai was saying that, like, they think their rivals are not Dallas, they think they're the Gladiators. Dude, Kai gets so much healing when he plays McCree. He just has so much faith in Shu to protect him. Peter? No, I didn't kick him. I just nudged him as he was lying under my desk. He's okay. Don't worry. There you go. Happy? Everyone happy? Look at him. He's chilling. He's chilling. Alright, what are we doing now? Get her on the Rhine. Is he switching? No. Pet the cat. No, no, no. Really like Space as a tank. Hopefully he gets cups. Yeah, it was honestly awesome catching up with Space again. Like, he's just such a nice guy to chill with and like talk Overwatch with. Cause he did the pre-show with us and he talked about Overwatch 2 with us. We watched the grand finals together and it was awesome talking about the game with him. Oh, good EMP. It's a good window though. That should hopefully protect them. Not enough for Gator. Kai, I need you to kill 3 people. Oh! Was it weird formally interviewing a friend? Nah, it's awesome. Like, Space is such an easy interview to have. We went into that interview with like 5 questions and then we finished all the questions and the producers are in our ear. They're like, you have 5 minutes remaining. Stretch questions. And I'm like, so I'm just racking my brain, just asking Indy random shit. And he answered all the questions like awesome. Like literally off the cuff, just great answers to the questions that we were throwing his way, so. Oh, I'm used to, that was a little bit of a feed impression. I think they might have to switch off of this Sombra Ball, right? Maybe here? I think it's gonna be really hard to get their backline into an effective range. What's the score right now? It's currently 1-1. Yeah, this is the Masa mind games, actually. Let's enjoy this, because this is literally Masa playing Terrified. So he's trying to hide from Birdering. This is the first review of the day. Yeah, this might be the only review I do as well. So what's happening here is Masa's trying to hide from Birdering. Because he doesn't want to get EMP'd. So he wants Masa Birdering to drop the beat. So that he can beat. And here's Birdering. And this is like such an awkward feeling as a Lucio, because you're literally not helping your team. You're just hoping your team is winning the fight without you, because you can't go and help. As soon as you go and help, you get EMP'd and you lose the game. What you're hoping for as a Lucio is that they EMP your front line, or they EMP someone else, and then you get the beat down, right? But it's free content, yeah, but I just don't enjoy it. Like, I'd rather just play ranked and like to keep the 4 to 400 challenge going. So Birdering finds him, he gets the thing, manages to live to tell the tale. I would have potentially beat it here if I was Masa. Help your team turn the fight, and then because Birdering's not really set up to get the EMP off. Because now he's like in desperation mode and he's sort of like holding off, and he's like, he doesn't want to beat, he's still trying to hide. Alright, we'll read. Oh yeah, and like we might go look at it later. And then he eventually gets caught trying to help. I think. And look at this disrespect. They fucking put him in here with mines. So brutal. Boom. And they go on to cap. That was a pretty fast time by the Gladiators. They made the double flex work. You could have beat it there and not die if you reacted quickly enough. Yeah, but when you have mines sitting in front of your face, trust me, you don't want to drop that beat. You don't want to lose it. But yeah, for the reviews, like, I don't know. I've never liked really reviewing things when we're never going to see these teams play again, even though they're never going to play Overwatch 1 again. That's why we're generally just talking about other shit. Talking about Overwatch 2, talking about the playoffs. There won't be a problem anymore with EMP. No, it will be with EMP because it should hack everyone for 1 second, right? I don't know if it'll remove shields. They said it won't remove shields, like it won't fuck with Zen, it won't fuck with Xayah shields. I wonder if it does fuck with Lucio Beat. That's a good question. I don't know what the answer to that is.
3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
I think we're moving a little bit thing. Kai needs to go sicko mode with this Hanzo. Is there a team you feel got robbed from the title this fight? From the title? Nah. The title was 100. Oh, hello, where's the boat? This title was 100% deserving to Shanghai Dragons. I don't think anyone deserved it more than them. Woo! That was close. Kept so. Woo! Later, nerd. Woo! Sheesh! There you go, Arena, just for you. I hate it. Bye.
Objective A captured. Recording escort the payload.
Lucio Beat is a shield? Not technically. So that's what why I'd like conversation. Like, confirmation of what would happen. ... Thoughts on the damage buff after hacks and Overwatch 2? I think it's a cool change, and I like it's making Sombra more of an FPS and less of a CC character. I think the tuning knob needs to be messed around with though. Maybe her hack damage, maybe her default damage. The Kai's actually doing so much work here. Oh, that's a problem space. Yeah, that's brutal. Oh! I know people thought this was a C9, but this isn't a C9. Gator dies on the point. I think Master needs to keep backing up because they're taking so much damage. Like, and he gets stuck. Like, I think it's just, they were fucked. EMP is 40% current health, not max health, yeah.
3 to 4. Switching sides.
Are you sponsored by Blizzard and being forced to say it's good? No. I wouldn't be able to slam the game if I didn't think it was going to be good, but I wouldn't be I'm not forced to advocate for the game. I think Overwatch 2 is solving a lot of the problems that is going to happen with Overwatch 1, but we won't know until we play it. We won't know how it feels until we play it, so that's why I'm optimistic. I've always been optimistic about Overwatch 2. I think changes need to be made, and I think they're bringing in changes.
Defend objective A.
Alright, so now we got the Atlanta Reign. They're gonna play the Brawl with the Sombra Kree. I think is gonna be on Kai. Kai needs the scooters. I don't really like the positioning of Gladiators right now. Yeah. I feel like they opened themselves up a little bit too much there. They gave too much of the statue away. That's not exactly what someone being forced by Blizzard would say, yeah. I'll put it this way. If I wasn't optimistic about Overwatch 2, I would look for a new job.
Just what the doctor ordered.
Cause I ain't gonna, if I didn't enjoy doing it, or I didn't think it was gonna be good, I wouldn't. Why would I do it? Overwatch 2 is not the popular thing to do right now, and it is not where you get the bag. So Kai's just putting out so much damage. One less tank will take away those butt clenched drawn out fights that sometimes result in a swing. That's a lot of excitement vanished. Well, no, that like I would rather not have the butt clench moment of the both tanks are there and they're running into each other and then be like, will they get saved by the immortality field? Is there enough healing? I would rather have my bunch clench moment of people shooting at each other and like having effective dives and like being able to actually like move around the map rather than just be like, oh my god, is the ultimate gonna kill everyone? Like, I think that's better for the game than where we are right now. Oh, how did he lose that? He gets hacked? So this is probably a worthwhile hack for him.
Just a little longer.
Are you in favor of lowering the CC? Absolutely. Oh yeah, Space just was not prepared for that. I think it's probably worth it if you're Pelican. Especially because Marsar held the beat. I actually remember this. I don't know why Marsar doesn't use the beat here. I feel like he just thinks like the amp goes down. It feels like he wants to save it. Like he could have beat it here. Maybe he doesn't want to beat and by the time this happens they're all too low and it's not worth doing. Maybe. Like it just doesn't feel worth it. Like better off saving it for the next fight.
Hey there.
Like they'll have beat EMP for this next fight. They should be fine.
Stop the payload.
Be right back.
I hope they make a tourney mode. Yeah, I agree. Like something above. Oh, he can't get caught. Something on top, like above ranked, in which it like gives like coordinated games where you sign up as like 5 or you join groups. I think that'd be really good. KJ's, thank you for the 11 months. Damn, that was a good find by Space. Oh, Pelican is getting pressured. Oh, that was unfortunate for Pelican. They still have good ults though. I think you just back out of this. You don't need to fight that. That wasn't a, that bongo was too early by Muse. The cart's not close enough. The Rain weren't gonna want to engage there anyway. So now they're gonna have to drop the window and hope for gold. Oh, lamp down already. Time to beat. Dude, Marsar is holding this beat forever. Alright. It worked though. Just too many ults for Atlanta Rain. Well played.
Team victory.
Alright, so Atlanta Rain gets the win, or Atlanta Rain goes up 2-1 against the LA Gladiators, and onto Dorado we go. Historically, not a very good map for the Atlanta Rain. They somehow beat Dallas Fuel on it. I don't know how that happened, but they beat Dallas Fuel on it, but I think Gladiators have a much better matchup in this series than the...
5.
over the Atlanta Rain, because let's be real, Wrecking Ball Dive is not really the Atlanta Rain's strong suit.
Escort the payload.
Oh, he didn't take the shot. I think he assumed the shield was going to be there. Let's get some Pelican Echo.
Going free.
Think Glads have been doused. It would have been a really interesting matchup.
Flight routine activated.
I would say yes, especially if Dallas play like they did against Atlanta to get knocked out. I think yes. Didn't they try the ball comp against Shanghai? Who? Atlanta? No, Atlanta never played. Oh no, did they play the ball comp? I don't think they played the ball comp at all against Shanghai in the grand finals, did they? They did, it obviously didn't work. How you liking your time as a commentator now? I think you still got it for a healer roll and thing. I like the desk is awesome. Like I really enjoy doing the desk. It's just a lot of fun, and I feel like it enables me to do a lot of things that I like doing and I'm good at. I don't think I have it to be a player anymore. Maybe if I really put my focus in, but I don't want to be a player. Like I don't want to live in a team house. I don't want to be traveling all the time. I don't want to do that kind of stuff. I'm kind of like settling down a little bit, you know? So I don't have the willingness to put 8 to 10 hours into Overwatch every day anymore.
Taking off.
Oh!
Clearing the way.
It's hard to build a life, yeah, and that's one of the things. Like, people always say it's like, why is there always young people who are in esports and stuff like that? And I've talked about this so many times. It's like, it's literally not like reaction times, it's not all that kind of stuff. It's just the amount of time you have to commit to it to like stay relevant and stay, especially with like growing games like Overwatch. Like, you see it a lot in CSGO and that kind of stuff, like older players, but that's because I don't think they have to put as much time in to stay relevant and stuff like that at times. Because the game doesn't change a whole lot. Well, I feel like Overwatch just changes so much all the time, especially when new heroes come into the game. Just hard to keep up. Woo! Feels like everyone is just ignoring Pelican. Pelican's like, guys, someone fight me, and everyone's like, no, and he's like, okay. Like, the Gladiators aren't even really trying to fight him, they're just trying to like damage control him. Oh, is he dead? Oh, wow. Can I catch some Kai Tracer? Oh, just missed it. Let's get some Muse Wrecking Ball, honestly. Kai Tracer was actually quite good on Dallas. They should have a league for retired players, like golf. That'd be funny. Talking to Hawaii, no, it's in LA. Mew's best rookie tank this season? I think Gaga might have been better than him. Who's the most surprising player to you this season? I don't know. Scoot's a good one. Flora is good. I think both the tanks from Houston were both very good as well. They impressed me a lot. Sparkle Tracer is a good one. I was worried about them when they didn't have a Tracer player, but they, you know, Sparkle made it work. Naga? Actually, maybe Dawn. Actually, not Naga, Dawn might have been the player that impressed me the most. Dawn was really fucking good. Like, really good on that flex support. On a team that did have its struggles, Dawn was incredible. Wait, no, I was thinking of Khan. Dawn was good. I was talking about Khan. Why the fuck are their names after me? I was talking about Khan. Someone actually corrected me. To Gingerbread Man, you are right. I was thinking of Khan, not Dawn. Dawn was good, but not as good as Khan. Final answer, I'm locking in Khan. Both were good, but I think Khan was more impressive than Dawn. And none. Fake fan. Oh, later, nerd. I want to see this sleep. That would have been a nice fucking shoot it to the moon whip shot. That was a nice sleep. Still goes down for it. And this is just like the pressure, like the comfortability of the Gladiators. Like, you can just see that the Gladiators are just way more comfortable. This is such a hard point to push. Yeah, I think like quick shout outs to Vestola and Dreedraw as well. Both great pickups in the middle of the season. They both performed very well considering they sort of got thrusted into the flames. Spy is a good shout as well. I did not expect a Spy to do that well. Going to a pretty Korean dominant roster And just having the impact he had on Tracer as a contenders player, like Spy wasn't really on my radar, great EMP. Spy just wasn't really on my radar going into when he got signed, and then he just Late Young and Elsa I think were both really good.
Round 1 complete. Score 0.
KJs, thank you very much for the 11 months. I might have missed that.
Sides.
Assassin had great matches. Yeah, Assassin was really good at the beginning and at the end. We don't talk about the middle. Assassin in the middle wasn't great, but his performance towards the end was actually really nice. Onigod was alright. Do you think Australia will ever get an out team? Maybe in the future. It'll be interesting to see how the league grows from here. Because I think we can all agree that a global league is kind of difficult. So I think adding Australia to the mix would be a problem. Like maybe they could be branded Australian, but I don't think so.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Yeah, Django, both Django and Piggy had great seasons. I was surprised Washington didn't play Winston Moira Lucio comps. Yeah, I hope Arena's not here because I think Washington were by far the most disappointing team in the playoffs. They literally just came in and played Brawl everywhere. It was like, oh,
5, 4,
cool. Sweet, that's great, guys.
1. Escort the payload.
Rena is here. Yeah, sorry, Rena. So Atlanta's gonna do the close hold here, which could work because I think how does Pelican die? Because this is such a bad death by Pelican.
See you later.
Oh, Birdering just found him. Outplayed. Why the fuck is Birdering there? Is he actually know that he's gonna be here? Like, why is Birdering here? He knows they're all in here. Like, why?
Beacon, see you later.
I wonder if he was actually looking for him, because there's no reason he should be there anyway. I don't know. Good hack onto the Reaper as well, because now they don't have like that extra pressure. They don't have that hack potential. I think this was a great kill by Atlanta, but I think they overextended just a little bit too much in here. They needed to get back into the room. Gator just took too much damage before he could get back in the room. It was Phil health pack. I don't think he hacked the health pack though. I think he just ran past. So I don't know. Just Giga Brain. Oh, we'll give him the credit. Let's have a look at some Sombra.
Translocating. I might need this later. The healing over here.
Thoughts on Gator's performance this season? He's been pretty good. I think Atlanta's hard to judge because they did play a very unique style. He found his TP again.
Translocating.
Oh, now Pelican's in trouble again. Pelican, no! Birdering is just bullying Pelican. Why is Sombra run so much in Alba but not top 500? Because people don't like playing Sombra. Sombra's a very dishonest character. Legitimately, people get pretty upset when you play Sombra in ranked, and people don't like playing Sombra. Sombra's strong, but it's not very
Later.
fun. Thoughts on Space? I think Space has been great this season. Why'd you leave out to be a commentator? Lost the drive to be better and the passion to want to compete at the highest level. As soon as you lose that, I could have easily played another season, I think, and been okay. But I could have also just gotten completely washed and just burnt out of the game and then never done anything Overwatch related again. I'd rather go into a different avenue. Like, I've always feel like I've been good about speaking about the game and like analyzing the game. So when I started having the feeling that I didn't want to be a player anymore, I actually approached Overwatch League and I was like, hey, would you be interested in me like going onto the desk, becoming a commentator, all those kind of things? And they were like, yeah, we could potentially like have you go into next season. That was one of the reasons I made it that season of like, it was available to me. So I went for it. All right, Pelican EMP. okay. It just doesn't, yeah, like Rain are just trying to play Brawl on a map that you just can't play Brawl on. It's so hard to close distance. I thought Custa was watched. No, I had an okay season. Like, I feel like everyone remembers season 2 as if I was completely washed, but I really only got benched. I was benched in stage 1, in which Al went 0-9, and then after that, we did pretty well. Like, our record was pretty good in the rest of the season when I was on the team. I definitely wasn't the best main support out there, but I think I was fine. Yeah, and this is why, like, we talk about how good the Atlanta Reign are. Like, you just look at that map. This is why Atlanta Reign just played Brawl and forced Brawl everywhere, because they just honestly can't really match up against the best teams playing these Zen comps. Atlanta Reign just doesn't match up. They don't know. They didn't play the Sombra as well. Gators Wrecking Ball isn't as good as these other like high-end Wrecking Balls. They just don't coordinate as well in the dives. So.
Apagando las luces.
Alright, on to last map.
Ready for battle.
Which team would you have preferred to play on during 2020 if you still had the drive? I would have loved to have played on either the rebuild of Valiant or like a Gladiators or a Houston. I'd want to play on a Western team, like a team that's like primarily built Western. Because I really struggled, especially like obviously in 2019 where we had like a heavy mix of like Korean to Western. It felt really hard to communicate and function as a team from time to time. So I'd want to like I'd want to play on a Western team. Like I couldn't play like, you know, like an Aspire or Logics on like a tournament Defiant. I'd find that so hard to feel like I'm contributing. Like as a player, I like to be someone who communicates a lot and makes a lot of the decisions and does all that kind of stuff. And if I couldn't do that, I feel like I wouldn't want to do that. Glad's on Nepal, yeah. So we're going to map 5. It is 2-2. Fortunately, for the Atlanta Reign, they get the map choice. This is a really good map choice for the Atlanta Reign. You can play Brawl on this map. It's not the best on this map, but on Village and Shrine, Brawl is quite good, so. You know, spectate Atlanta vs Shanghai? Nah, not really. I'm not going to break down too many of these games. We'll see how many more I do. I wanted to at least do one and sort of talk about the playoffs, but we'll see where we go. Oh, that was dangerous by Muse. Dude, Shu is just... Shu is just living life on the edge.
Locking down the objective. Rally to me.
Red Shanghai was very boring to watch, yeah. Like, I think Atlanta actually put up a better fight than people sort of give them credit for, but it just wasn't really an entertaining match. It didn't feel like there was a lot of back and forth and big plays happening and stuff like that. It's kind of why I really enjoyed Atlanta vs Shock was kind of interesting, because it was very back and forth. There were those big moments. It was the worst grand finals. I wouldn't say it was the worst grand finals. San Francisco Shock beating Vancouver Titans wasn't very interesting in 2019. That was probably the most boring final. If I remember, that one was fucking Vancouver barely even showed up to that match. Just DPS, I think it's just the style that Shanghai Dragons play was like the best meta, and it's very hard to play against. And people didn't want to mirror Shanghai in that comp because Shanghai were just the most practice and season on that composition. So it just felt like there was, like people had to like counter comp, and no one really found an effective counter comp. Great beat. Like Space is just fucked because of that beat. NYXL Spitfire was the best? In 2018 semifinals? Wait, NYXL never played Spitfire, did they? Are you talking about the stage playoffs? You must be talking about stage playoffs, right? In like stage 1 or stage 2? You think Glad's choked this map? No, I think it's a hard map for Glads. Especially this point, I think it's just such a hard point for Glads. Like, Brawl's just better. Like, it's hard to really, like... Because Atlanta can close the distance quite well, and Wrecking Ball isn't as effective on this point. I think Season 1 Stage 4 finals were the best finals. Yeah, I think they were the best finals. I think that was the, like, when you really got to see peak Overwatch. Season 1 Stage 4 finals, I think the best players were playing. I think, you know, the best Overwatch was ever being played. Very attractive people playing the game. Just, you know, all around great things. These matches are only available to you. No, they're available to everyone. I actually like this shadow against the Bob. Fuck Bob. It's kind of hard to hit a shadow against their comp. I think Shu needs to go aggressive with this Transcendence. They need to apply more pressure. If they let... I feel like they're just letting... They're letting their range just reset too much. Like, they need to play more aggressive. Because Atlanta's just going to reset and go again. Ooh. I don't watch much Overwatch. What happened to Doomfist meta with Reaper? Brig existed. Doomfist has never really had much success. When was that? When was Doom Reaper meta? What is that? That was like 2019 Grand Finals, right? Doom Reaper?
Score 1.
I feel like there was a lot of Doom in 2019 playoffs, right? Yeah.
Ready.
When Sigma came out, yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Alright, so this should be where it should get easier for the Atlanta Reign. If the Gladiators get control, then they can win. If they can get their backline in good positions, they're fine. But it's going to be hard because Atlanta's just going to run to the point. Muse is not having a good time. Holy fuck. Alright, they got the kills on the backline though. Good dive. Oh, Pelican did not win that. Why did Skewed play BAP instead of Brig? So because Atlanta Reign is playing Brawl, they don't have anyone in which Brig's very good against. And like, if the Atlanta Reign composition is on top of Scooter's Brig, they've already lost. So they're better off playing higher damage output with more healing with the Zen BAP from further away, and then hope that they can kill the Reign before they get on top of them. Because if he plays the Brig, it's just not very good. It's kind of like a very greedy pick. Zen BAP is very greedy, but Reign doesn't want to play dive, so it works. Because it's just because of the meta. Because Lucio's not meta, Moth got benched because Scoot is the best Brig probably in the game, and can also allow them to play the double flex support. So this is map 5. He's in trouble. Oh, he almost hit that. If he had kicked earlier. What do you think the chances are Shui transcended because he heard the EMP go off? But even though it was his teammates. I think quite high. I think he might have panic trans there.
Gaze into the iris.
Understandable, yeah. Hey, Bo. I thought Hux had a rep as toxic. Yeah, he had some pretty toxic moments. People came out that he was quite toxic from time to time.
Wobble, wobble, motherfucker.
In the shadow of doubt.
Kafka, thank you very much for the Prime Gaming sub. Way to get it. Alright, so Rain won the Sanctum, in which a map that I think they were favored. Gladiators seem to be winning this round. I think they're favored for this round as well. Like, Brawl can work, but they lost that first team fight, so like it's very hard for them to close it. Like, it's hard for them to get to point. Let's go 3 maps. I can't remember. Why do I feel like Gladiators choke this round away? Is that just me? I think.
See you later. Here I am. Translocating. Always leave yourself the back.
Will there be a meta where Mirror will play over Custa? I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, guys, but I think rosters are about to go under a lot of changes. I don't think so. Your favorite players and your favorite teams, you know, they're gonna move. Don't worry, it's not you, it's them.
My ultimate is almost ready.
Custa's the insider info. I think there's gonna be a lot of rebuilds this year. If you're ever gonna drop your whole roster and do something new, this is the season for it.
Apagando las luces.
Oh, how does Scoot die to this? No! That bomb was 9 head. Hawk's a fucking genius. I wonder if he knew what he was doing. Probably. That's such an annoying bomb. That's so hard to dodge. That got Space's mech as well. Houston seem to be keeping a lot of the same players. According to what? I would be shocked if Houston kept, like, they have like 11 players, right? 10, 11 players. I would be shocked if they kept 10 or 11 players going into Overwatch 2. Oh, Pelican, stop it. Oh, then Scoot gets hit by the high noon. Alright, Kai, I'm gonna need you to... Good beat by Masa. The Kai's missing. Shanghai drop a lot of their bench. Yeah, you remember Molly, one of the best prospects coming out of like 2020, was on the bench for the Shanghai Dragons the entire season. Never forget that there is like someone of Molly's caliber just sitting on the bench. I feel like that was such a bad signing by Molly. He should have known he was never gonna play. Man, it's so sad that a couple of things just went wrong for the Gladiators on this final round. And the Gladiators get knocked out, and the Atlanta Reign win it all. Go on to make it to the grand finals. It would have been interesting to see what the Gladiators would have done against the Shanghai Dragons. I really wish we could have seen that again, like the rematch of that match. So figured either still signed. No, players will be signed for a while. I don't think you'll really start hearing roster stuff like locked in for about a month, and then I think you'll start hearing teams start rumblings of players coming, going, all that kind of stuff. We'll see. Sherwood, thank you very much for 3 months. But that is it. That is the Gladiators versus the Atlanta Reign. As I said, we talked about a lot of random shit. We talked about players. We talked about Overwatch 2. I hope you guys found it interesting. You know, I don't know how many of these playoff matches I'm going to be reviewing in the future, but we'll see. You know, never say never. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys next time.